Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to completely transform how you think about studying. I'm serious. Forget those long, draining hours. We're diving into how you can learn way more in way less time by working with your brain instead of against it. You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a page, your eyes are definitely moving across the words, but your brain just isn't there. It's that super frustrating moment when you realize you've read the same paragraph 3 times and still have no idea what it said. That's called passive studying, and it's a huge waste of our most precious resource, our time. So this is the big mindset shift we need to make. The prize for studying doesn't go to the person who spends the most hours glued to a chair. Nope, it goes to the person who uses their time in the most effective way possible. And this explainer, it's all about giving you the strategies to do exactly that. All right, our first strategy is all about managing your time to get the most out of your focus. We're going to talk about working in short, really intense bursts. Okay, what's so fascinating here is the science behind it. Our brains are absolutely amazing at high-level concentration, but only for a little while. Think of it like a sprint. Research shows that after about 25 to 30 minutes, our focus just naturally starts to fade. Trying to push past that isn't discipline. It's just inefficient. That's when you start to staring at the page instead of actually learning anything. So how do we actually use this? With something called the focus cycle. It's super simple. You set a timer for 25 minutes, and you give it everything you've got. That means phone away, extra tabs closed, just pure, deep focus on your work. Then, and this part is absolutely crucial, you take a real break. Get up, walk around, look out the window, reset your brain. Then you're ready to dive back in for another focus sprint. But here's a big word of warning. That 5-minute break is not for scrolling through social media. That isn't rest, you guys. It's just another form of distraction that keeps your brain buzzing. A true break is about completely disengaging so you can come back feeling genuinely refreshed and ready to go. So we've got our time sorted out, but where we spend that time is just as important. Let's talk about our environment, because the place you study has a massive, massive impact on your ability to concentrate. And this comparison just nails it. When you're in your bed, your brain has this deep, lifelong connection. This is where we sleep. So when you try to study there, you're literally fighting your own psychology. You're burning precious mental energy just to stay awake and focused. A dedicated desk, on the other hand, sends the exact opposite signal. Okay, it's time to work. So the real takeaway here is to create a sacred study space. When you sit down in that spot, it's for one reason and one reason only. And over time, this becomes an automatic trigger. The simple act of sitting at your desk tells your brain to switch into focus mode, which makes it so much easier to get started. Okay, so we've set up our time and our space. Now, let's get into the most important part, what you're actually doing when you study. Because the difference between active and passive learning, it's everything. This is such a brilliant way to get it. I mean, think about it. Trying to memorize a random string of letters, SUNDA, that's hard, and you'll probably forget it fast. But when your brain processes those letters to form a concept you already know, the word Sunday, remembering it is completely effortless. That's our goal, turning all those disconnected facts into meaningful concepts. So how do we actually do this? Well, here are 3 really powerful ways. First, preview your material. Before you even start reading, just skim the chapter. Look at the headings, the pictures, the charts. This gets your brain ready and starts forming questions. Second, explain the concepts out loud. Seriously, if you can't say it in a simple way, you probably don't understand it well enough yet. And finally, the ultimate test. Teach it to someone else. Trying to simplify a complex idea for another person will cement it in your own mind like nothing else. Okay, but let's be real, sometimes you just have to memorize a bunch of stuff. But even then, we can be smart about it. Let's talk about creating some powerful mental hooks using a cool technique called mnemonics. So what in the world is a mnemonic? It's basically just a memory shortcut. It's a clever way to turn difficult, or long, or abstract information into something simple and easy to remember. Now, this is where it gets really practical. Let's say you have to memorize these 3 historical names. On their own, that's pretty tough, right? But check out what happens when we just take the first letter of each name. We've got an M, a K, and an H. Put them together, and they can form the word macaw, a word that is way, way easier to remember than those 3 separate complex names. So now, you just have to remember one word to unlock all 3. That's the power of a mnemonic. We've covered time, space, and techniques. But honestly, none of it really matters without this final, and I'd argue, most critical piece of the puzzle. You know, we tend to think that learning only happens when we're awake and staring at a book. but the process actually continues long after you've called it a day. While you're sleeping, your brain is working hard, kind of like a night librarian, sorting and filing all the information you took in. It's moving knowledge from your fragile, short-term memory into your much more robust, long-term memory. Pulling an all-nighter before a big exam is literally one of the worst things you can possibly do. You're robbing your brain of the exact process it needs to make sense of everything you just crammed in. So let's be super clear. Getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep isn't a luxury. It is a non-negotiable requirement of the learning process itself. And I want to leave you with this really powerful idea from Leonardo da Vinci. All these techniques we've talked about, the focus blocks, the study space, the mnemonics, they're all just tools. But the engine that makes them all work, that's desire. It's curiosity. It's having a genuine interest in what you're learning. Without that spark, you're just going through the motions. So as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this to think about. For just a moment, forget about what you have to study. Instead, ask yourself this. What is one thing you are genuinely, truly curious enough to learn about right now? Find that thing, start there, and just see how much smarter you can study. Thanks for tuning in.